everybody, this is Rama screen at the Superman Red Sun red carpet, and I'm here with the legendary executive producer, Bruce Timm. How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
Good. So, why is right now the right time to bring Red Sun, the movie? Like, is it because of the Russia hysteria that we're having right now?
No, I don't think that really has anything to do with it. I mean, what's weird about this is that's almost, how do I say this? I don't even think of this movie as being particularly political.
Okay.
It's not really about the ideology of democracy versus communism or any of that. That's there, certainly. But I still think of it more as a character piece. It's really much more about what would Superman be like if he was an autocratic dictator, you know? And it's like, there is no real world equivalent of that, you know, that I can see. So it's like, you know, him being the leader of the Communist Party is certainly not like the leader of any of the communist parties back, you know, in Russia, you know, in our past history. So I know people keep asking me, it's like, oh, is there any kind of anti-Trump message in this? And it's kind of like, not really. I mean, if there had been something along those lines in the comic, I certainly didn't feel like it was my job to like add that to this existing story. And not only that, I certainly have my own beliefs, and I'm going to certainly vote a certain way in November. And if I thought adding some kind of commentary would move the needle, maybe I would do it, but I don't think it really would anyways.
Yeah.
So
Now, how much do you guys stay faithful to Mark Miller's version, or what's the alteration in this movie?
I think it's pretty close. It's not a direct, you know, literal translation. There are certain things we felt like we needed to change. A lot of it is just for time, you know, characters that needed to be, you know, consolidated or whatnot. There was a whole plot line with this guy who was like one of Stalin's bastard children in the comic it was kind of like, we don't really have time to deal with all that. And it was kind of like this through line. It was just like, we need to kind of simplify that whole storyline. And then we did change Lois's relationship with Luthor a little bit.
Okay.
Because in the comic, and again, I hate to even criticize the comic because it's an awesome comic, but in the comic, Lois is, when I read it, I kind of go, why is Lois even with this guy? Because he's really a horrible person and he doesn't treat her terribly well. And it's just like, I'm a little disappointed in Lois when I read it, you know? So we did massage that a little bit so that they at least have some kind of chemistry. He's not quite as horrible a person in the movie as he is in the comic, so that you can kind of understand that, okay, now I can understand why Lois is with this guy. But other than that, it's the big ideas, the big set pieces, like, you know, the Soviet or anti-Soviet terrorist Batman is straight up like in the comic. Wonder Woman is very, very close. That whole storyline is very similar. So, yeah, I think people will watch this, and if they haven't reread the comic in like the last year or two, I think they'll look at it and go, oh, yeah, it's a pretty good adaptation.
Last question, sir. Batman Beyond Season 4, it keeps being rumored. Is it going to happen?
Not that I know of. Nobody's told me, so.
I'll keep hoping then. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
What up, everybody? This is Rama screen at the red carpet premiere of Superman Red Sun, and I'm here with the legendary director, Liu. How you doing, sir?
Great, good to see you again.
Good. Now, of all the projects that you've did with DC, why is it right now the right time to make Superman Red Sun?
You know, this is going to be a really unsexy answer. Superman Red Sun has kind of come up throughout the years. And every time I think I'm going to do Superman Red Sun, something else kind of takes its place. And this time it just stuck. So that's the unsexy answer.
No worries. So what is it about Mark Miller's creation that you guys kind of alter, tweak a little bit, no?
You know, we always have to, because I think there's a difference between, I think like when you do like either series or like books with chapters, you can sort of reset. Do you know what I mean? But when you're watching play a movie, it's gotta connect from beginning to end. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, like this chapter could be about this person, and all of a sudden another chapter is about somebody entirely different. You know what I mean? And so, or you can just go into like a day in somebody's life or something like that, right? But you can't really do that with a movie because it's got to build on itself and that kind of stuff, right? And it's got to build to some sort of resolution and conclusion. So there are things that we had to take out because it bumped or didn't sort of make. It didn't go anywhere, kind of a thing. They're just like, that in itself is an interesting thing. And so we had to sort of pare things down that sort of service the plot.
Now, before I let you go, can you share a few words about what do you think about Mark Miller as a comic book writer on the level of every other comic book writers like Frank Miller and all those greats?
You know, I think Mike Miller's like, he writes the best taglines. You know, I think like whenever you you see like a Mike Miller story, you're intrigued by it because it's just so interesting. You know, I think his movies. I think you can like read 2 sentences about it, and then you're just like, wow, I want to see that.
Like Wanted.
Yeah. And so, whereas I think like sometimes other writers, you read the title and you're like, I don't know if that's, I don't really know what that's about. You know what I mean? Or like, that might be interesting if I stuck with it a little bit. But I think Mike Miller's stuff is always just right up, like just right from the cuff. Like, oh, that's a cool concept.
All right, last one. Scoop. What's the next Elseworlds movie? Nothing yet?
I can't say because this guy will murder me.
Okay, so thank you so much.
Great to meet you.